Greetings and welcome back to the Osha Cerese Show. I am your host, Osha Cerese, and this is episode 14 of the Osha Cerese Show. Thank you for tuning in. If you are watching on Instagram, make sure you come on over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. It's youtube.com/at Osha Cerese, that's OSHACERESE, because this show may not always be streaming on Instagram. I've been giving y'all a little taste, a little teaser while I build the momentum of the show. But thank you for tuning in. If you are here on YouTube live, if you are on Instagram, I'm looking over here because my Instagram page is down here on my laptop. But thank you for tuning in. Again, this is the Osha Cerese Show. I'm Osha Cerese, your favorite certified life coach, event curator, and dream doula, helping you birth your dream life, helping you birth those ideas into reality. This show is all about healing, self-love, self-discovery, intentional dating, and trending topics. So we are taking what's going on in culture and combining it with coaching. This is where healing meets headlines and where we utilize alchemy to transmute gossip into growth. Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. It is February 14th, 2025. We still got 33 minutes left on the East Coast. In the Eastern Standard Time Zone, we still got 33 minutes left of this man-made holiday. So happy Valentine's Day for all the lovers out there, whether you are in a relationship, married, single, loving on yourself, or loving on multiple people. That might be a hint to today's topic. Stay tuned for that. But again, happy Valentine's Day. We made it. I've been talking about this holiday all month. And happy Black History Month. We're doing it all month long and beyond. This is day 14 of eating raw and juicing. I think I'm going to ease my way into my regular vegan diet with just less processed foods. So I may have some cooked foods. I'm really not craving it or anything. I just kind of need a little bit more variety. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself on whether I stop eating raw or not. But the juice of today, I made this earlier today, is another batch of Honeycrisp and ginger. Honeycrisp apples and ginger. You see that beautiful color? This is what fresh apple juice looks like. It looks like liquid gold. So this is the juice of the day: Honeycrisp apples and ginger. So cheers to great health. Cheers to love. Cheers to happiness, joy, success, wealth. Did I say great health? I think I said that first. Abundance. Cheers. This was my first sip of this. I didn't try it earlier. The sweetness of the apples with a little kick of the ginger. Love it. So again, happy Black History Month. You know, we start every show with a Black History Spotlight. And due to the topic and the nature of today's show, I just wanted to read a little bit of some facts and an article. So stay tuned. So today's show, we're going to be talking about the different types of relationships. There's something trending right now in celebrity news, and it has to do with ethical non-monogamy. So I wanted to find out a little bit more about the background and history of polygamy or polygyny, whichever way we want to word it, in Black history. So this is what I found, just a little bit of information. It says polygamy has a deep history within Black cultures, particularly in African traditions, where multiple wives were a sign of wealth, responsibility, and legacy building. Some notable figures associated with polygamous relationships include Fela Kuti, the Nigerian musician and activist, had multiple wives, tying into traditional Yoruba customs. Malcolm X's father, Earl Little, Some reports indicate he may have engaged in polygamous relationships rooted in his Garveyite beliefs. African kingdoms and lineages. Many African leaders from the Zulu King Shaka's dynasty to various West African chiefs practice polygamy as part of their culture. And I'm going to read this article, but the question that was posed is, are humans naturally polygamous? That's what I asked when I was doing my research. It says biologically, humans exhibit traits of both monogamous and non-monogamous species. Historically, polygamy was common due to survival needs, resource distribution, and lineage expansion. And in modern times, ethical non-monogamy and polyamory have reemerged as people question traditional relationship structures. So, it's not necessarily for everybody, is what this is saying. Basically, back in the day, historically, it was meant as a way of survival. Like, we got more women than men. Let's all get together. Let's put our resources together, and let's be fruitful and multiply. Those were the vibes. So I wanted to read this article that I came across. It's from February 13th, 2020 by Amber Butts. You can find it on blackyouthproject.com. And the title of the article is Black Non-Monogamy is a Pre-Colonial Practice. Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and as usual, it got me reflecting on how utterly diabolical consumerist culture is, how it influences and perpetuates our constant need to measure who is most worthy of love, affection, and gifts, and why we think it is our business to begin with. It also has me deeply bitter about the fact that toxic monogamy represents itself as the most applicable, natural, sustainable, and mutually beneficial romantic relationship structure when in reality it is fairly new. Whether we want to admit it or not, toxic monogamy centers reproduction, possession, transaction, extraction, and control, requesting that its participants lay claim to another body or at least shift towards being someone's only as the pinnacle of relationship goals. It's exhausting. But more than that, the culture is so successful in its assumption that everyone wants it that it ends up producing an explicit and expected hierarchy. In this hierarchy, partners are prioritized over other non-sexual intimate relationships. Jealousy and competition are applauded and then reanimated or repackaged as growth. Cultural understanding. Sorry, y'all. I wish you could see how small these words are. Cultural understandings of romance and relationships end up centering men, nuclear families, cis heteronormativity, big ass words, cis heteronormativity, and codependency. The preoccupation with monogamous cis heterosexuality is so central to the way systems function that in order for me to receive or share health benefits with those I love, we have to either be married, legal or common law, be relatives, or lie. Consumerism and toxic monogamy work together to further the idea that single persons are damaged, defective, unworthy, and or unattractive, and that anything existing outside of those margins is illegitimate. Even the deeply Black movies depicting Black relationships, like Love and Basketball, Waiting to Exhale, Boomerang, Love Jones, Jason's Lyric, revel in ego, comparison, lies, infidelity, and romantic partners being their everything. And though this is what is being represented in mainstream media, Black folks across the globe are challenging the things we've been spoon-fed and engaging in practices that feel good, regardless of what shape it takes. I've had the luxury of witnessing how alternative, expansive relationship configurations and agreements have fulfilled Black folks' lives, and not just the lives of those engaging in that particular dynamic. I've shattered the idea in my life, intimacy will be regulated to my partners and no one else. I'm clear that Black queer folks have always actualized futures that include our pleasure, play, emotional support, intimacy, asexuality, and differing, sometimes converging identities. And yet, patriarchy, misogynoir, and white supremacy bleed over those lives, regardless of which relationship styles we choose into. There are particular histories and contexts that ensure that only one dimensional representations of love are uplifted. But for Black folks, this representation is even more insidious because it opens up more space for those of us shows up whose love shows up differently to be perceived as aspiring to whiteness or the unhealthy idea that one person can and should be our everything. Non-monogamy, an umbrella term that refers to practice of having multiple partners or concurrent relationships, is a Black people thing. It is pre-colonial and has existed for as long as humans and animals have been on this earth, encompassing different relationship styles, including open relationships, swinging, polygamy, polyamory, solo polyamory, swinging, she put that twice, somebody doing some swinging, triads, and tribes. Common misconceptions about polyamorous, non-monogamous folks are that they are slutty, selfish, and sex crazed. Their forms of relationship building aren't categorized as meaningful, consistent, and or ethical. And the consensus is that there is something inherently wrong with how they engage because they are constantly dating multiple people, and thus their connections can't be genuine. I think that a lot of Black folks are attempting to decolonize the ways that white supremacy has encouraged us to relate to one another by utilizing false narratives of scarcity, and that we reanimate those when we choose into trying to determine who deserves abundance, care, compassion, and connection. Most things aren't just about sexuality or gender, they are also about power and who gets to wield it. Outside of polygyny, there's an agreement in some non monogamous relationships where a man is allowed to have multiple woman partners. Those women are each allowed to have other women partners, but forbidden from having any other male partners. This practice is often referred to as one penis policy, OPP, which sometimes is referred to as oppressive penis policy. While this is in itself cringeworthy, what's most damaging is that it's also transphobic AF, as it equates genitals with gender and further the idea that some women and intersex folks don't have penises. Those mostly Muslim nations still engage in polygamy, the practice of marrying more than one spouse. Common representations of polygamy are actually polygyny, think sister wives. In Niger, men are allowed to have up to 4 wives, while their wives are not allowed to have sexual or intimate contact with anyone else. In fiction, even cultural understandings of romance and relationships center men, regardless of whether they are monogamous or not. It subtly paints the picture that while men may not be present, women and non-binary folks' only possibilities of survival are substituting those relationships and connections with each other. It denies that these connections would otherwise actively exist or be sought out of choice, want, queerness, and desire instead of necessity. Toxic monogamy culture normalizes relationship configurations that closely align with it. If non-monogamous folks' statuses are revealed, they risk isolation, employment termination, losing custody of their children, and judgment by community members and family. They may also be labeled as unsafe, perverted, and or mentally unstable. But folks are actualizing communities on and offline that support the well-being and futures of marginalized genders. This Black History Month, I want to highlight Black polyamorous, ethical, non-monogamous, and sex educators who are queering these conversations and centering Black women and non-binary folks rather than continuing the practice of understanding relationships through how they only benefit male participants. So she lists a few experts in the field: Ruby Bowie Johnson, Michonne Neal, Robin Wilson Beatty, and Vita Sawyers, as well as Black speculative fiction writers who have queer or non-monogamous characters. The Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin, Who Fears Death by Nnedi Okorafor, Everfair by Nisa Shaw, and Xenogenes by Octavia Butler. So I thought that was an interesting article about her saying that monogamy is like a colonized practice and it's not really for Black people. And when we talk about it in modern times, most Black people, especially Black women, they're not trying to hear that. They're not trying to hear that that is natural or that it is rooted in our history or whatever. And I get it. I mean, I feel like to each their own. I know some people who have practiced polygamy, polygyny, whatever you want to label it, and it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. So, if you're watching, I want to know your thoughts about it. Do you feel like this is natural to us to be monogamous or non-monogamous? Which one is natural? And honestly, I feel like it all boils down to a choice. I don't know what is natural and what isn't, but I just know that you have the choice to decide whether or not you're going to put forth effort in either one, whichever you choose. So the reason I decided to talk about polygamy, non-monogamy today is because the actor Kofi Siriboe, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, he is going viral right now because he made a statement. I'm going to play it in a second. But if you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, you will see that I've been reviewing the show Harlem, recapping the final season 3, the current season, which is the final season, season 3. And on the show, spoiler alert, he has a character that he plays named Seth, who revealed to the woman he was dating, the character Quinn, that he is ethically non-monogamous. So in this clip of him being interviewed, him as his real life person, he is revealing that he can relate to that character because he too is non-monogamous. So let me just play the clip.
Relationship lasted 3, 4, 5 years each, so then, and then to fast forward, my life changed, so there was a different, I started working every day. Then there's the fame element and the abundance of people and exposure. And, I've just had different shifts and different seasons where it seems like sometimes monogamy feels like role play and it sometimes feels restrictive, so there's an element of it that feels performative. And I understand the tradition of it. I understand the deeper, I understand that, but then there's a part of me that just had questions. So I went through some phases where I'm like, well, why do we do it like this? And is this how I want to do it? And from observing people who play those roles, my parents included, I see some blind spots. You know what I'm saying? Does that mean we have to throw away the whole system? Not necessarily. Like, I honor the tradition. My first 2 real.
So he basically is saying that he feels restricted and almost like he's being performative when he's in monogamous relationship. It doesn't feel natural to him. So he also mentioned he's been in 2 really long-term relationships, but then his life changed, meaning his acting career took off and he's famous and he's handsome and he has access to multiple women who desire him, an abundance of women, a plethora of women, and it doesn't align with him to just be with one because all of this, he has the world of women, at his fingertips. So I wanted to read some of the tweets and the comments that some of the women have shared after hearing this. Hearing Kofi say, I'm ethically non-monogamous after unethically hiding his partner for 8 months, clocking New York Ninja T bad. Kofi is fine, but not fine enough to be ethically non-monogamous. Finished Harlem on Prime, and Kofi so fine, he almost convinced me of that ethical non-monogamy BS. God forbid. Kofi said he's non-monogamous in real life. Like, whoever thought otherwise? LMAO. Points for the ethical part of it, but nobody expected you to be monogamous, ninja. Kofi Siriboe said monogamy is restricting, role-playing, and performative. All the fine ones have commitment issues. All of them. That dead ass took his attractiveness down. And some of the comments, someone said, Heavenly Father, I know I've been praying for my husband to find me, just not this type. Someone else said, hear me out. At least he's transparent. Y'all in non-monogamous relationships and don't even know it. A man said that I'm actually friends with online. It's only restrictive if monogamy isn't for you. Of course it's performative, it's work. You don't always feel like working, but to keep it going, you have to perform. Another guy said, dudes really find any way to justify not being disciplined. Someone else said, summary, I tried long relationships, but I'm famous now. It's too many women out here to be locked down to one. I don't have enough self-control and discipline for all that. Side note, ethical means they all know I'm on the move because I tell them, so it's not cheating. Did I miss anything? A woman said, a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. James 1:8. Someone else, monogamy would feel performative to a man who is not a man of God. A man said, these ideologies prevail where there is no self-control or discipline. Essentially, it's lust. Lust never gratifies. Therefore, one woman or 10 women will never be enough. A woman said, I would think entertaining and maintaining multiple people is performative, but hey, who am I? A man said, this is why women are starting to lose faith in us men. Shaking my head. Restrictive is insane. A woman said, fine men always speak and ruin it. So it looks like the majority of people aren't with it based on just me flipping through these first few comments. I thought that I would see a bunch of people supporting it, but I really don't, even when I'm flipping through it. Yeah, I'm actually surprised by that. But I wanted to go over the different types of relationships and the pros and cons that come along with them. But I will say a story time when it comes to polygamy or whatever. I really didn't know much about it. I don't think I ever knew of anyone who practiced it or did any research about it at all. But I want to tell y'all one of my first introductions to the construct of I don't know what to call it, polygamy, polyamory, I don't know. But I don't know. I may have been a couple of years into my vegan journey. So I'm researching and I'm looking for vegans that look like me, and I'm looking at other people that are moving to other countries and the benefits of it, and I'm just, falling down the rabbit hole of that. And I'm in the conscious community because, pro-black and spiritual and, all of these things. So I'm researching, I'm finding myself going down the rabbit hole of different things. So I come across a group of Black people, melanated people, I should say, in the tropics. They're talking about being vegan. They eat plant-based. They have their own diet that they've curated. They teach, they learn about all different things about astrology, astronomy, grounding, all this research, science, love, food, all this different research. They're operating in love. They're on this island in the tropics. They're walking around naked. I can get with that. I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. So I started doing, watching them and following them a little bit deeper. And I found out that they also practice polygamy. And I'm like, that's interesting. Not for me per se, but let me see what it's all about. So if you haven't caught on by now, I'm talking about Nature Boy. And I think at the time I found them, his cult was called Carbonation. So I think it started off as Melanation. I believe I found them right after they switched to Carbonation. So once you start going down the Nature Boy rabbit hole, it becomes like a reality show. So Nature Boy, I think his parents were Caribbean. He had a much older father. His father might have been like a Afro Latino or something. He wasn't raised by his parents. I think his mother passed. They might have passed away young, and he was raised by somebody else in New York. And he was living a life of, wildlife, crime. Then somehow he found his way into being an exotic dancer, and even participating in like homosexual pornography, and just living an interesting life. Somehow he ended up making his way down to Atlanta. He had a barbershop in, I think, Rex, Georgia, or somewhere down there. And he went on his own journey. I don't know how his journey started, of becoming a vegan and being spiritual and wanting to leave America, which he called Babylon. So he moved to the tropics, and he decided he wanted to open the invitation for other people to move to the tropics with him. So it started off, I feel like, just a great cause of, melanated people going to the tropics, leaving Babylon, getting your mind right, studying, learning, eating, being healthy and living off the land mid-grid, not off the grid, but just like mid-grid. So it seemed like good intentions at first. Then it became something where you basically had to get on his program in order to come join Melanation, which turned into Carbonation. So people who wanted to join, they had to isolate themselves from their families and loved ones, or any distraction that took them away from studying his program, his teachings. And that included cutting parents off, and even cutting their children off if the baby dad or the baby mom, whoever was the other co-parent, wasn't with them making this lifestyle change and moving to the tropics. They had to leave their kids with whoever, if that person was going to cause a problem. This man had people coming down there, and most of the people were like lost on their journey, maybe trying to heal from something, and he's promising them that he can help reverse whatever illness, STDs, autoimmune problems. Most of these people had some type of military check or some type of inheritance or something financial to bring to the table, bring to the pot, all money in. They would get these big Airbnb houses in the tropics, and it would seemingly look like at first it was giving he owned the property, and they were living off the land, and they was peeing and pooping out on the ground and squatting and doing the things that they felt was of what was natural to how humans are supposed to operate. He had a system where if there was a lighter person, he would match make them. So he would put lighter skinned people with darker skinned people, so that the children that they produce can have more melanin. It was a whole system. And he taught polygamy, but there weren't that many. I'm trying to think if there were an equal amount of men to women. I don't know. But he chose all the women that he wanted to be with. He partnered all the couples, all the men with women. But he was the chief. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking about Nature Boy. He was the chief. So he had the first selection of the women that he wanted. And most of the women that came down there wanted to be with him too. But some women came down there not really even trying to be partnered. They just wanted to be a part of the movement. They wanted to be vegan. They wanted to be away from their family, get out of Babylon, live in community, and have build a legacy under his program. And it turned into a whole ass mess. So again, he coupled up people and partnered people, but whenever he wanted the women, he might take them away from the dude and say, you know, cause a rift in their relationship, and next thing you know, the woman is with him. So he had about between 3 to 4 or 5 wives at a time, and most of the guys usually would just have one or none. Um, it just became a mess. It was just so much drama. All the women wanted to be the number one woman. I started watching Nature Boy and them when he was with, I can't remember. That was another thing. He also had them change their names. So whatever names that they had, he would name them. Doesn't that sound familiar? It's kind of giving enslaved. So he would give them a new name. So they would go by the name that he gave them. And I can't remember the first woman that I remember him being with when I first started watching, but he ended up getting her pregnant, and she left before she even had the baby. Then he was with another woman. I could literally talk about the Nature Boy series, Nature Boy drama for hours, but I'm trying to make the long story short. There was another young lady. Her real name is Velvet. I believe he named her Eliana. I'm trying to think if that was her first name when she got there. But Eliana, he named her that. She came with a man. Can't remember his name right now. Something happened where her and Nature Boy started becoming close, where he wanted to be with her and she wanted to be with him. So they caused some type of issue between her and her man. And when they were traveling somewhere, they ended up leaving him wherever they were, and they left him. And then her and Nature Boy got together. Mind you, these folks were deported and ran out of multiple places in the tropics. They lived in parts of Mexico, Costa Rica, I think, probably was it Belize? All type of little areas of the tropics. They were moving, hopping around, going to different places. They even tried to go to Hawaii. They got ran up out of Hawaii real quick. And they ended up landing in Atlanta before the demise of Nature Boy. But before all of that, wherever they were, there was Eliana. When she got with him, it just was always drama because she was trying to force herself to be okay with the polygamy when she really wasn't. And that's where the issues came in at. And that's where I think people try to force polygamy on other folks, and some women try to accept it to appease their man when really they're not about that life. And then jealousy comes in, issues, problems with the women, problems with the man. So it was just a mess. He turned into a narcissistic, abusive, just, I don't even know how many words I could use. I'm the words that I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to say. But Nature Boy became a whole problem. He was abusing the men and the women, physically, mentally, spiritually. Again, a lot of the people that were there were detached from their families and their children. Eliana's father was fighting hard to get his child back to America. Like, he wasn't playing no games, and she was holding on to their childhood stuff that she had, unhealed, unresolved stuff. And her dad was not trying to let her fall into this cult. Him and his wife showed up in Mexico and popped up on them after she had Nature Boy's baby. That was another thing that they preached, natural births. So there was a baby that was born where they were living in this, I think it was in Mexico at the time. A midwife helped them deliver this baby, but the baby came out very malnourished and very unhealthy looking. And the mother who had the baby, she looked unhealthy as well. And if anybody is familiar with young Pharaoh, who's also somebody that went through it, that used to be an educator and a philosopher and teaching, very young dude, but he used to teach comedic principles and conscious teaching or whatever. He ended up going back and forth with Nature Boy and basically trying to break down his whole operation by exposing some of the things that were going on in that cult, like STDs being transferred, abuse. And there was a woman that went there and that he told to stop taking her medicine, her heart medication, and she died there. Like, all kind of drama. But right after that baby was born, young Pharaoh like turned it up and put the heat on them. And it got to the point where the mother of the baby, the father of the baby, and two of their friends, like a couple that met there as well, and one other man decided to leave the cult. Mind you, Nature Boy and them, they would record everything. They would be live all the time. And I can't lie, I had got wrapped up in it. I was watching it like it was a reality show, because it technically was. It was like the realest reality show you're ever going to see. But literally being able to see inside of a cult was just crazy to me. It was fascinating, but it was sad because you started to see it go from something that was meant to be a good thing into a whole catastrophe. So they ended up leaving. They're healthy now. Both the couples that left, the couple with the baby that was looking sickly and the mom, they're healthy. They live in Hawaii now. The other couple, they have 2 kids. They recently broke up, but they're healthy and happy and fine, because the man of that couple, I think he spent over like $400,000 or something of inheritance money with Nature Boy. Like, it was a lot going on. So anyway, there was so much drama with the polygamy stuff that I'm just like, why? Why would anybody choose this if this is how it is? Of course, that's not how everybody's situation is, but it gave not desirable for me. One time they were live, and they used to have what they call real nigga moments. And it would be when Nature Boy basically made all of them sit in a circle on the floor to talk out whatever issues were going on within this cult. If somebody had an attitude, if somebody had a problem with something, or if he had an issue with one of the members, he would make them stay up all night to talk the issue out. So this particular time, Eliana was pregnant, and he was just badgering her about the man that she came there with. Remember, I told you she had a man when she came there, and they left him somewhere, and her and Nature Boy got together. So he was like trying to put it on her as if, you need to apologize to him and you did him wrong, this is that, when he was fully a part of the whole scheme as well. And he was just really talking shit and just making her feel so small, and she was like apologizing, and he wasn't accepting what she was saying. And like everybody in the comments was saying like, hey, she apologized, why are you still at her, da 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 da. Everybody in the room was looking crazy, but they were scared of him, so they weren't really speaking up. And he was going off on people in the comments saying, ain't nobody finna stress out my pregnant wife and yada yada yada. So he used to allow people to go live with him, but anybody say anything that he doesn't like, he would block them or cuss them out or whatever. So I hit the request button to go live with him. And I started off like, don't block me, because you got to meet people where they are. And I wanted to get what I had to say out. And I was telling him like, you're saying that you don't want anybody stressing your pregnant wife out, but you're stressing her out now because you're yelling at her and badgering her when she's already apologized, but you're not accepting it. And so he was listening at first, and then he felt like I was trying to check him. So he was like, how you gonna tell me about my wife? And she was being defensive because she was brainwashed. Everybody there was brainwashed. So he ended up hanging up after a while. He called me a bitch after he hung the thing up, like, yeah, that bitch don't know, whatever. But I remember Eliana left a couple of times after her baby was born. And she would come back, but I remember talking to her in her inbox, telling her that I was rooting for her or whatever. And, she said that she appreciated it. She went back a couple of times before she finally left for good. So many other things happened. And again, they ended up getting deported and coming back to Atlanta. They was out in Atlanta acting real crazy, like going to the clubs, and it would just be him. At this point, he changed his name from Nature Boy to Chief, and then he ended up rebranding himself as the Three God. If you haven't seen anything about Nature Boy, just go on YouTube and go down the rabbit hole if you want to. But he at this point he had probably like 5 wives. Mind you, he's in his 40s. These young girls are like in their 20s. The oldest one was in her 30s, but she had act like she had the mind of a teenager. She had actually had a son that she left behind to go be with Nature Boy. And so he was all around Atlanta, taking them to the club, taking them to different places. And it started to look less like polygamy and more like pimping. Um, that's what it was giving. Like, you're the pimp, you're abusing these women, you're trafficking them. And eventually one of the women that were there, she, because he started putting out sexual content on Twitter, started having the girls do sexual things. They engaged in sexual acts and all of this, and he was putting it on Twitter. So at one point, he put one of the women on Twitter, and she said that she didn't approve of that. And she said that he held her against her will and that he SA'd her. If you don't know what that means, read between the lines, because you can't say everything on these apps. But he ended up being arrested, and a lot of the cult members disbanded, went back to their families. They're healing, they're getting therapy, they're, unpacking all the things that they experienced during this cult, like malnourishment, abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, isolation, just controlled, being confined, all of the things that they're healing from. And then there's still like 3 of the women that were his wives are still together, preaching his message, hollering out free him. But he ended up getting life plus like 40, I don't know, it was like life plus 10 years or something outlandish like that. I watched the trial, and it was just like, it was really sad to see, actually, like all the things that he did. But then when you see him on trial and he really is convinced that he's this God, and he was going back and forth with the judge, telling her that, oh, I forgive them, all the people that like testified against him. But he had no remorse, and they locked him up and threw away the key. So saying all this to say that some people try to dress up polygamy, and you fuck around and end up being in a cult, or you fuck around and end up being pimped, because there is no ethical aspect to some people's idea of polygamy. They just want multiple women, they want to control them, they want to be in charge of them, have access to their bodies, and feel like they are meant to serve them. And that's what he did. So anybody that's considering that, especially young women or young men, because there were some men that got abused in the cult as well, just figure out who you're dealing with. And that's with any type of relationship. So I wanted to talk about the different types of relationships, and I'm sure that there's so many more. But we got monogamy, a relationship where individuals exclusively commit to one partner. That's what we're used to seeing traditionally, especially here in America. And the pros, of course, deep emotional connection, societal acceptance, and legal benefits. Everybody always say, what's the big deal about marriage? Why you want to get the courts in your business? Why you want to, what do you got to prove? The ring, the last name, or whatever. But there are some benefits that come along with making it official. Some of the cons: potential for unmet needs. Some people feel like they can't be satisfied by just one person, and some people feel like they are not able to satisfy one person by themselves. Pressure to fulfill all your partner's expectations. Again, like that article was mentioning, in monogamy, a lot of times those romantic relationships are prioritized over every other relationship. So you're not really pouring into and nurturing your friendships, your family dynamics, your, sisterhood, brotherhood, and all of that. So it can be a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure, and people forget about their individuality and just focus on this relationship. Polygamy is a marriage involving multiple spouses. Polygyny is one man with multiple wives, and polyandry is one woman with multiple husbands. I have seen a couple of dynamics like that, and I don't think a lot of men can handle that, but some men can. I've been seeing some very open-minded people these days. The pros of polyamory or polygamy: extended familial support and diverse companionship. And the cons: complex dynamics, legal restrictions in many countries because it's not technically legal in America. So a lot of these people talking about they got multiple wives, you just calling them that. Polyamory, which I keep confusing that with polygamy. Polyamory is engaging in multiple consensual romantic relationships simultaneously. So I guess the difference is it's not just the family dynamic, like you got your husband and your two wives, y'all in the same house, or you got your wife and your two husbands in the same house. You're just having your different relationships, which a lot of people are doing without consent or agreement. The pros are emotional fulfillment for multiple partners and freedom of expression, and the cons are time management challenges and societal stigma. Open relationships: a committed couple that allows for sexual relationships with others. Hall pass. The pros are sexual variety, reduce pressure on one partner to meet all needs, and the cons, of course, jealousy issues and potential for miscommunication. Ethical non-monogamy, this big new term that a lot of people don't know or haven't heard of, that's going viral right now with Kofi's fine self, and which I see in a lot of men's profiles on dating apps. People are putting this in their bios now, ENM, ethical non-monogamy. Definition is any relationship structure that isn't monogamous but is conducted with transparency and consent. The pros are honest communication, tailored relationship agreements, and the cons are requires continuous negotiation and potential societal judgment. Not negotiation. So they have relationship anarchy. The definition is rejecting traditional relationship hierarchies, allowing relationships to develop naturally without labels. Pros: flexibility and autonomy. Cons: lack of structure can lead to misunderstandings and societal misconceptions. Relationship anarchy. That's one of those, what y'all say, what's understood doesn't have to be explained. And it does end up needing to be explained because you pull up on somebody trying to cut up because you feel like that's your man or that's your woman, but y'all haven't made no agreements. That's what that is. Swinging: committed couples consensually engaging in sexual activities with others, often in a social setting. The pros: exploration of fantasies, strengthen couple communication, and cons: risk of emotional complications and potential for secrecy. It's a lot of swingers clubs in Atlanta. I think one is called Trapeze. I can't remember the other one's name. And then when we went to Florida for vacation a couple years ago, we went to the nude beach and we were approached by a naked man who was inviting us to a private party. And as he kept talking, I'm like, oh, that's one of them kind of parties. And it reminded me of that episode. Was it Martin when they got invited to the party from one of Martin's potential clients, and it ended up being a swingers party? That's what that would have been. If we have showed up to that party, we would have been shocked. But a lot of people gets down with swinging. They might not want to have multiple relationships, but they do want to fulfill those sexual fantasies and be okay with that. Serial monogamy: engaging in a series of monogamous relationships, one after another. Pros: deep communication, societal acceptance. Cons: potential pattern of unresolved issues and emotional burnout. I know a lot of serial monogamous people that them women that be like, oh, that keeps them a man. Or that man that always got a woman on his arm. A lot of them are skipping the healing part and they feel like, you know how they say the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody, or you know, they just want to have a breathing body in their bed. Now, some people just feel like I'm a relationship person, and I get that. A lot of people do thrive in relationships, but how are you just out of one into another, out of one into another? Where do you, to each their own? They got long distance relationships. Partners are geographically separated for extended periods. The pros, maintaining connection despite distance and fostering trust. The cons, limited physical intimacy and potential for miscommunication. Now, I tried long distance before, and it was real fun at first. Like, he flying me out, he flying in town. We miss each other. We're able to, you know, keep in touch in the meantime, in between time. We look forward to seeing each other, and all of that is wonderful. But those times when you miss that person and you want to just pull up and get a hug, get some cuddles, love on them, go on a date, and that's not possible. And then I came to find out that he had a whole secret life. So long distance is not ideal for me. But if the trust is there, I think that it can be a beautiful thing. But I still would recommend people, before they commit to like jump from long distance to marriage, I feel like you need to cohabitate or live in the same city for a while before you do all of that. Some examples of that, or one that I can think of. Remember Cynthia Bailey's second marriage, that she was so adamant to get married during the pandemic, 10, so she can have 10, 10, 20 as her wedding. She got married to that guy, Mike Hill. I think he's a sportscaster or something that Steve Harvey introduced her to. They were all lovey-dovey and they had their own hashtag chill, like Cynthia and Hill, C Hill. Um, she had her house in Atlanta, Lake Bailey. He had his home and established life in LA, and everything was all good. They are living the dream. They're married, they're in love, or they're getting married, they're in love, all is well. But they waited until they got married to fuse their lives together. And then shortly after, they got divorced. And I feel like that was a contributing factor, because it's all good when you have the absence making your heart grow fonder. But what happens when you up under each other all the damn time? So that's just me. That's my suggestion. Platonic life partners, deep non-romantic partners, or deep non-romantic partnerships where individuals commit to sharing their lives. So I've been hearing women saying that they would marry their best friends, get a house together, get married, um, share bills, build a legacy together, and then just see men on the side. So people are doing that. Emotional support, stability without being romantic, and even not necessarily has to be same sex. It could be um, opposite sex. So they have something called a queer platonic relationship, or a QPR. It's a deep committed relationship that may not be romantic, but is more intense than a traditional friendship. I've been hearing a lot of, it's called a lavender marriage, where it's like maybe a homosexual man and a heterosexual woman might have a marriage together, and live their individual lives, but they just have each other for whatever reason. Um, so the pros are emotional intimacy without the expectations of romance and strong partnership. And some of the cons can be misunderstood by society, blurred boundaries if expectations aren't committed. Here's one that I have experience with, and now I'm anti this: situationships. A romantic or sexual relationship that lacks clear labels or commitments. In other words, you doing all the relationship stuff without the title or the commitment. Count me out. Pros, flexibility, low pressure interactions. Cons, uncertainty, emotional instability if expectations differ. That will have you sliding down the wall after you ask, "What are we?" And they say, "We just, it is what it is. Don't overcomplicate it." Mm-mm. Don't do it. If you want love and you want a solid relationship, don't do no situationship. Cohabitation without marriage. Shacking up. Partners live together and function as a couple without legal marriage. Pros are shared responsibility, trial run for marriage, and the cons are lack of legal protections and societal or family pressure. I believe in shacking up, like not for a long period of time, but like I need a little trial run sample of what life with you is like, and we can't get that with just spending nights. Like, and I've only lived with one man in my life, the man that I married. So, thumbs up. So, I definitely don't take it lightly. I don't mean just live with everybody, but if you really are getting ready to take somebody seriously, live together for a little while, I think. There's another one, LAT, living apart together. Partners maintain a committed relationship but live separately. So the pros: independence, space to maintain, personal identity, and cons: less daily intimacy and logistical challenges. Believe it or not, a lot of the women that I know that have been married for years, they said that if anything were to happen with their husband, they would date, but they would not live with a man again. They would want their own house, their own place, and they just see each other when they see each other. And is it Cheryl D. Ralph? Original Dream Girl, D from Moesha, um, Abbott Elementary. She recently went viral talking about how her and her husband live in completely different states and they've been together for decades. So that might be a thing. We might be on to something. Maybe we just together. We see each other when we see each other. Um, we have a marriage. What's understood don't have to be explained to the 10th power, and that may work. I don't know. I don't know about separate houses, but I'm I'm not gonna say I will want a separate bedroom, but I would want a separate space where I can be while we cohabitate. Like the men have their man cave. I need my woman sanctuary. I need a place where I can be, where I can decompress, where I can get into my hobbies. Like this room is like my creative room. I got all kind of stuff over here that I work on. It's my office and my creative room and my meditation space and all of that. Like I need that space, and I want a bed or a futon or something in there where if I want to sleep and roll around and lay down like a starfish and pass gas freely or whatever I want to do, if I want to do that, I can. And we can cuddle and see each other, um, you know, later on if I want to come take a nap in here. But we have the choices of whether or not we're going to sleep together. And there's no love lost or no intimacy lost. It's just an option. I'm down with that. I'm definitely down with that. So they have dominance and submission relationships. Relationships where one partner consensually takes a dominant role while the other submits. Pros are clear power dynamics, deep trust and communication, and cons require strong boundaries and consent misunderstood by outsiders. Okay, we get into some that I don't know, that I ain't never heard of. Gray romantic or gray sexual relationships. These are relationships where one or both partners experience romantic or sexual attraction infrequently or under specific circumstances. The pros are it aligns with personal identity and comfort levels, and cons, it can be difficult to find compatible partners who understand these nuances. Yeah, because I don't know what the hell that means. So then you have asexual or aromantic. aromantic relationships. So that's relationships where one or both partners experience little to no sexual or romantic attraction, but still form deep emotional bonds. So the pros are the focus is on companionship and emotional connection, and the cons, finding partners with similar preferences may be challenging. Now, um, some people are that I know have sexless marriages, whether they want to or not, but they're having sexless marriages. And some people that I know that are married choose to like abstain sometimes, just not forever or not have any type of intimacy, but they might abstain from sex for a period of time to actually increase intimacy. But just a whole relationship with no sexual or romantic attraction, that's interesting. Then we have arranged marriages, which we might need to bring that back. Marriages that are arranged by families or cultural traditions rather than solely based on romantic attraction. So the pros are strong familial and cultural support, and they're often long lasting. And the cons are lack of initial romantic connection and potential lack of personal choice. Now, if I was to trust my family to arrange a marriage, I'm gonna need y'all to consider the things that you like. Consider the things that matter, yes, but also consider what you know or think that I like. But a lot of cultures, they not worried about that. They just worried about this person comes from a great family. This person has stability. This person is, you're gonna build a great legacy together, and they push y'all together, and y'all gonna have to grow in love eventually. Work it out. So then we have triads and triples, a romantic relationship involving three people who are all involved with one another. So that's different from just sister wives, because sometimes sister wives are heterosexual and they're just focused on their husband. This is where the women are together, the man is with both women. It's pros, more emotional and physical support, and cons can be complex to navigate emotions and dynamics equally. And then we have relationship agreements, custom structures. Partners create their own unique structure of commitment based on their needs and values. The pros completely tailored to what works best for the individuals involved, and the cons requires ongoing discussion and renegotiation as needs change. I'm not opposed to that. I think that that's how every relationship should be, where you're not necessarily following societal norms or traditions just because they were told to you that this is how it goes, but you make your own rules. It's your relationship, so you make your own rules. You do what's best for you all, and your shared values and your the desired outcomes. That's why I don't do too much judging when people start judging Will and Jada, because if they made an agreement that they're going to be life partners and they're never getting a divorce, and they can see other people, and she had an entanglement and he has his side women or whatever, that's their business. That's their marriage. Why is everybody coming through as the marriage police? Because you have this idea of what marriage is supposed to look like, and theirs looks nothing like that. And I guess because everybody thought, "Ooh, Will and Jada, they've been together all this time. They have a blended family. They are Black Hollywood royalty." So they're disappointed that they have a non-traditional marriage. But I think people can take a note out of their handbook, a page out of their handbook, not to make it look like that, but make it look like what it needs to look like for you and your spouse, and stop worrying about what everybody else thinks. And if that means being monogamous and being traditional and following the blueprint of your grandparents or what the Bible says, then do that and stand firm in it. Stand 10 toes down on it. But stop judging other people. So I just want to give a little shine a light on the different types of relationships, since this is Lover's Day, Valentine's Day. There's so many different types of relationships, and it can look different for everybody. So as you listen to these different relationships, did any of them spark anything, any interest or any curiosity? Um, what type of relationships do you prefer? What do you engage in? And what do you desire? Let me hear about it. Tell me in the comments. And if you are a hopeful romantic, if you are a just a lover boy, a lover girl, and you're a hopeful romantic, you're an intentional dater, and you're looking for love in 2025, you need to sign up for the Intentional Love Collective. It's not signing up to anything in particular, but it's adding yourself to this growing community, this database that I am creating so that I can curate intimate, special matchmaking opportunities for you, whether that is a one-on-one date or is a small date mixer with six people or 10 people or maybe 20 people, but it's going to be people that match what you're looking for. Shared interests, shared values, and your type. You're going to walk in and be like, damn, there's a lot of my type in here. So add yourself to the Intentional Love Collective. If you are following me on Instagram, IG is at Osha Cerese, OSHACERESE. Right now it's in my bio. I'll probably take it out soon. I put it in there because I hosted a speed dating event the other day. But if you want to add yourself to the Intentional Love Collective, just DM me, comment, or email me at Osha Cerese at gmail.com. That's OSHACERESE at gmail.com. Intentional love. That's all you got to say. Intentional love. And I will send it over to you. If you are in need of some type of support when it comes to your healing journey, self-love, self-discovery, or intentional dating journey, book a one-on-one call. Just book a free discovery call and we'll talk about how I can be of support to you. Again, I'm a certified life coach. I have experience. I have the wisdom and the knowledge and the tools that I've gained from education, experience, and wisdom, ancestral wisdom that has been passed down to me as well. And I can support you with what you need. If you're a content creator, a business owner, an influencer, somebody that needs support with knowing what to do, how to utilize and monetize your gifts, get you a strategy call. All of this that I'm talking about can be found on oshacerese.com. That's OSHACERESE.com. You can also enroll in a course if you want a healing course that is guided, that comes along with coaching as well. Go ahead and enroll in one single step at a time. That is the 6-week healing program that helps you to unpack, to do your inner child healing, do your shadow work, unpack these past relationship trauma that you keep dragging on from relationship to relationship. It helps you to discover who you are, know who you are, what you want, and then we work on your plan of action for your future. One single step at a time. Sign up for that. If you're not ready for that, you want to look something a little lighter, enroll in 5 ways in 5 days. It can be done in as little as 5 days, or you take your time and take as much as 2 months, 60 days to get it done. And it is a program that is designed to help you discover how to utilize your love languages in your daily acts of self-love and self-care, and also to uncover any blockages you may have when it comes to giving and receiving love. This is a perfect program for somebody that wants a little bit of guidance, but it's also self-paced and help you to just understand any type of blockages that you have when it comes to giving and receiving love. And then if that's something you're not ready for yet, just grab a guided journal. How to Be Single, OshaCerese.com. How to Be Single helps you to do the work on your own time. It's $20, easy peasy. Get your work done as you choose to pour into yourself. Healing, self-love, and self-discovery comes with exercises, affirmations, some story times about my own personal love history, and gives you a lot of tools that you would also receive in the programs, but for a fraction of the cost. And subscribe to my newsletter, OshaCerese.com. All of that is there. Again, if you want to be added to the Intentional Love Collective, just DM me, comment, or email me at OshaCerese@gmail.com. Intentional Love. Let me give you a journal prompt or two, and we will wrap it up. What kind of relationship structure aligns most with your values, needs, and personal growth? What kind of relationship structure aligns most with your values, needs, and personal growth? How do you navigate jealousy, trust, and emotional security in relationships? How do you navigate jealousy, trust, and emotional security in relationships? And when you write down the answers to these questions, if you struggle at all or something comes up that you weren't expecting, this is because you probably haven't done some shadow work and you need to go on your own personal self-discovery journey. And that's two things that I help you with if you decide to um, have me as your coach. So keep that in mind when you write down these journaling prompts, see what comes up, and then come back and let me know what happened. Again, I appreciate y'all for sticking with me with the Osha Cerese Show. We are 14 days in, 2 weeks of live conversation coming to you every day. I'm proud of myself for being consistent. I hope you're proud of me too. And I love you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I will talk to you later. See y'all.